Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Please support the businesses in your area. Every one of them are struggling, and we're all in this mess together. Let's fight back. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America, followed by a patriot to call in with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning, good morning. And a good morning to you and yours. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our main sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations are in operation, open and serving you with a safe, clean environment and the best in tires and services for your car. So you be sure and stop in today to your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, along with our friends at, of course, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And Greystone Crossing Independent Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Well, good morning to you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, man, appreciate you. And right now, let's go to the weather forecast brought to everybody by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 West of Hayburn. Easy to find, no excuses, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. Offering the rental on the best tools and equipment you need. It's springtime, and believe me, they've got all your equipment for the garden or the lawn, power rakes, all the garden and lawn equipment, rototillers, everything. You better get in there today. Check it out. Give them a call, 678-3122. Roger and the crew at K&R Rental. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Sunshine for today, rain showers for tomorrow. Welcome to spring here in the Magic Valley. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Mostly sunny skies for today. We are expecting a high of 53. Tonight, clouds are going to be rolling in with a low of 39. Tomorrow, it's going to be cloudy, windy, and rainy. High of 56. Looks like winds could gust as high as 40 miles an hour by tomorrow night. That's going to be tapering down just a little bit. We are expecting wind gusts as high as 34 miles an hour, and we are expecting a low right around 30. For Thursday, back to mostly sunny skies, high of 50. By Friday, sunny mid-50s. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Wow. It is going to be a variance of all kinds of things, isn't it? It's currently 32 degrees outside. Thank you, Gina. And the weather brought to you by K&R Rental. Again, located at 256 South, 600 West of Hayburn. They get there early in the morning at K&R Rental. Roger and the crew on the Burley-Paul Highway. Call them if you have questions, 678-3122. Want to also give a great big shout-out like we do every morning. One of the first things we mention is that when you look good, you feel good. And by golly, you'll always look good if you have your clothes dry cleaned at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. I have been going in there for, 20 years, and they have never let me down. These are excellent people, Kevin and Cindy and the staff, and all your dry cleaning. And don't forget, too, they can do the washing of your clothes where they'll wash, dry, fold, and iron all your clothes, just like Mama used to. You stop in today. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, waiting to serve you. Well, good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Well, good morning to you too, Zeb.
How you doing, buddy?
News this morning, they announced that the checks are going to be going out to all the households, that qualify. Now, you and I probably have a direct deposit because we're senior citizens and we are on Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
But these people who get theirs through the regular mail, my heart goes out to them because this is the ideal time for these awful people to steal your check in the mail and cash it, and you won't even know you ever got it.
I hope the problem isn't as dark and dreary and clandestine as you paint the picture. I certainly hope not. Wheels, I'm going to ask you if you can turn up the volume coming down the line to me a little bit more. I need some more, please. I hope it's not as bleak as you project, but there is the possibility of fraud and theft. And I don't I guess I'm going to say this, and I'm going to probably get chastised by some people, but I don't like anything coming in the mail or having to leave in the mail. We are up against the wall for this primary election of having to take care of the voting on May 19th via the mail. I am going to support it. I'm going to ask you and everyone to support it as good American patriot citizens. But normally, I don't even have anything sent to me in the mail from my bank or anything else. I don't trust anybody.
Well, let me tell you a quick story about this mail fraud. This lady that I knew personally was waiting for her check to come in the mail, for, I think it was, just a tax refund. And she waited and never did get it, so she resubmitted. Well, when she did that, the feds came after her for mail fraud because the check was cashed.
Oh, my.
And she was reapplying. She got herself in a whole bunch of trouble just trying to do what was right.
Yeah. We could go on and on about this, and I have a story that it's funny you should call on this, because as a matter of fact, last week I just settled a major problem on a check that I had mailed almost 2 months ago. 2 months ago. And I have mailed this party a check for over a year. I mean, I owed some on a balance of a loan. And all of a sudden, the big check, the balloon payment, disappeared. And had to put a stop pay on it. I don't trust the mail system. I'm sorry. I'm not blaming our postal authorities at all. I just think sometimes there are some fraudulent, bad people out there.
Well, first of all, most people think that the Postal Service is part of the U.S. government.
It's not.
They are not.
No, it's not.
And they need to know that.
Yeah, but most people...
If you think the government's going to protect you, you're wrong.
Yeah, but also, conversely, a lot of people think the Federal Reserve is part of the federal government with our monetary system, and that is not also.
That's true.
Okay.
But I just thought it would be a friendly reminder. If you know what time your mail comes, approximately, you might watch. If you see somebody suspicious hanging around the mailbox or in your neighborhood that shouldn't be there, you might want to report that.
Yeah, remember the old song, the old country song, "The keys in the mailbox, come on in"? You can't do that anymore. Hey, man, I got to run. Thank you.
Don't put it over top of the door either.
No. Or
Pretty old.
I agree with you, Keith. Thank you so much for breaking the ice this morning. Appreciate it. Want to remind everybody about our dear friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. 678-0459. They get there early in the morning, too. 7:30, open the doors till 5, Monday through Friday. And when I say this, it's the truth. All your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. I mean, they've been in business now going on 7 decades. Holy moly. They are the pros. They have the experience. They have the knowledge to serve you at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I chuckled. Something to laugh at today. I mean, little things, even human interest stories that are a little bit funny. Well, did you see on television the 93-year-old woman, 93-year-old great-grandma, and she was standing in the living room looking out the picture window, holding a sign up, evidently for people that they couldn't come to the door. She couldn't let people in her home because of the coronavirus. So she held up a paper sign with her needs for her household. And the sign said, "I need more beer." I love it. I need more beer. Well, this thing with the pictures and the video that was taken by some news people, it kind of went off on its own tangent, and Coors Brewing Company, Coors Beer, heard about it, and they told the local distributor to drop off 25 six-packs of Coors Beer to this 93-year-old woman, and she is smiling like a Cheshire cat. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I have a feeling she really doesn't give a rip about being in confinement in her home or not, so God bless her, 93 years of age. Oh, thank you to Dino's Septic Service. My. They've ridden the horse with us for quite some time, and we appreciate their business, and they appreciate yours. Please give them a call. Don't forget septic tank pumping, liquid waste removal, sewer and sink drain lines cleaned, water and sewer lines installed, the best tobacco services. They do it all. They do it all. All you need to do is just give them a call on the landline, 436-6526 or 678-1638. Fast, fair, friendly service from Dino's Septic Service. They are really good folks, with a big truck that says "Smells Cargo" on the way to serve you. Dino's Septic Service. All right, let's light up the phone lines a little bit, folks. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want you in the audience to tell me that if you were President Trump, you were the president right now, could you maintain or contain your temper as well as he has? When you have those daily press briefings on the coronavirus with reporters from the likes of CBS, CNN, MSNBC, etc., that are heck bent on basically calling the president out and trying to whittle him down, and they don't like him, he doesn't like them, and some of these so-called reporters ask absolutely the dumbest and the most anti-Trump questions they could possibly ask. And I've sat and watched many of these news conferences. And I got to tell you, I could never, and I underline the word never, have handled it as well as he is. There are stupid headlines in the newspaper, including the biggest newspaper, the New York Times. And one that came out is absolutely ridiculous, saying Trump could have seen this coming. He's not God. He's not some superhero with supervisions into the future. And the dolts on the left, and they are dolts on the left, are coming out with these headlines like, Trump could have seen this coming. Well, how? Simply ask how. When the Chinese are the guilty party, I don't want to hear these crybaby leftists come out and say, oh, well, you're being a racist because you're going after the Chinese. I'm going after the Chinese government. And I think all countries should go after the Chinese government for remuneration and payback for the slovenly, terrible, inhumane job that China did in trying to or not trying to control this pandemic. And China's stupid, disgraceful, inhumane way that they handled this or didn't handle this coronavirus. And now we have low-life China's leaders that are trying to stop, ban, and threaten anyone that is trying to investigate or do research as to what happened, how it got loose, what can be done to stop it in the future, etc. The Chinese government, simply put in a four-letter word, is evil. Evil. And the government leaders are extremely evil and criminal in what they've done. Now, to the bleeding heart liberals, and there are some right here in this area that have said, well, Zeb, you can't say that. That's racist. Yes, I can. Yes, I will. And yes, I did. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Bell. You know, I'm sick and tired of people saying you're racist if you're against China. What's wrong with these people? China does not like us. They never have liked us. They never will like us. If they could figure out a way to destroy and bring this country to their knees, they're going to do it.
You know, there's another point there. It's not that they don't like us. It's that they don't care. You know, there's a lot to be said for this inhumane nation and the way that they treat their people. Bodies and human beings that represent the death count in the bodies in their country, that doesn't mean anything to them. They are a very cruel nation. They are absolutely one of the poorest for worrying or caring about human rights and the welfare of their people. That's been proven throughout history. So they don't care about anybody. And when it comes to leadership in Red China, which it is, they are the ones that are the racists, not you and me.
Oh, you hit it right on the nail right on the head, Zeb. These people, you're right, they do not care. They don't care about themselves, let alone any other country. And this pandemic, you know, that they're blaming on Trump, how the heck is he supposed to know when they kept it such a secret? Or Chuck Schumer or Adam Schiff, did they know about it before the president did? Those are all questions that need to be asked.
Well, you know, Donna, you and I could harangue back and forth on this all day long, and neither one of us are going to come up with a real concrete answer. But here's something that needs to be figured out. Number one, I am not convinced. I know I'm going to sound like a conspiracy theorist, and some of those dolts that write op-ed pieces for the Times News are going to jump all over this. But I am not convinced that this wasn't a planned oops. In other words, I wonder maybe if this wasn't a plan, not caring about body count. They didn't care about how many people died. They didn't care about how many people got sick. But they knew that this might be a way to get rid of Trump and all the conservative aspects of his government, his administration, that were trying to ply their ways with the Chinese government. And I honestly think it's too close and a little bit questioning as to how come this happened immediately after the impeachment.
Yeah, I've been saying that for a long time, so I'm right there with you. I just think, I don't know how we're going to fix it, but I do know if stupid people don't quit doing stupid things, we won't ever get rid of it.
Well, and it's unfortunate, but we have leadership in all capacities in all countries that really, I'm surprised they can tie their shoes.
Yeah, you're right.
God bless you, Donna. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, Tippy Toe, don't wake up George.
He just woke up. I don't have to tippy toe anymore.
Okay. Thank you so much. Hey, caller number 2, I'll be right there. Don't go away. I've got to tell everybody about my friend Jeff and the whole crew over at Magic Valley Irrigation. Oh, these are good guys over there, and they really care. 44 East, 500 South of Burley, and the number to call and make sure they can help you with your irrigation needs at Magic Valley Irrigation is 678-3101. That number again, 431. Those 2 numbers, pardon me, 678-3101 and 431-3101. They are the experts when it comes to irrigation, and they will help you. Magic Valley Irrigation, you get a hold of them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Thank you for your time and your call.
Okay, good morning, Zeb. China doesn't realize it, but they stepped on the wrong foot. I still get around the valley, and I've been to different hardware stores in different places, spoken to a number of people. They've all got the same attitude. Buster, whatever you got on your shelf with the name China on it, it's going to stay on the shelf. Trump has got a lot of support in that area, and China is not going to walk over the United States, because we're going to end up making China bleed over this.
Tony, do you have a collection of caps?
I've got one.
All right. I would venture to say, and I'll bet you and Mary dinner on this, and I'm going to say this to any and all people out in the audience, all the farmers, all the folks that wear baseball caps from various companies, whether you're a truck driver or whatever you do, take your cap off right now. Look inside the brim, and you will probably 98% assuredly find the little sticker that says "Made in China."
Well, I purchased about a month ago a rifle scope by one of our American companies, and it said "Made in China," and it went right back to the store, got my money back.
There you go. You know,
I'm taking, and many of the people that I spoke to feel the same way. So Trump has got a lot of support behind him.
You know, this is, it's not just baseball caps, and I bet you a lot of farmers out there right now are looking at their caps, honestly, and you look in there and it's going to say either "Made in China" or "Made in Taiwan," one of those two. You're very, very lucky if you find a baseball cap of any magnitude representing any company or whatever that says "Made in the good old USA." And then look at T-shirts, look at clothing. Some of the stuff that we send overseas as far as contracts to have clothing sewn in other foreign countries, I can't wear their shirts because they're definitely not up to size.
Craftsmen used to make their own tools. Now we've got stores around here selling Craftsman tools made in China.
Oh, my.
I quit buying them.
Yeah. Every time I see something that has the Chinese label on it, I put it back on the shelf, just like you. I don't want it. I will not pay for it. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate your comment this morning. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, take care of yourself. Yeah, that's true. Everybody take off your baseball cap right now and look. And I collected those. I mean, Deanne finally said enough. I had literally 4 or 5 trash bags, extra big trash bags, filled with caps of various companies representing various events. Holy smokes. And some are pretty doggone nice and fancy and everything. Never wore them or anything. But I would venture to say that I'd say at least 90% of these caps made in China. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What is with this Michigan governor by the name of Whitmer, Gretchen Whitmer, that thinks she is basically going to tell everybody what to do, how to do it, and when to do it, and when not to do it. There have been a lot of these governors that have stepped out of bounds, and she is one of them. And she, I think, is making a power play, a pitch, if you will, to possibly get the nod and the wink from Joe Biden to become maybe his running mate for the vice presidency. Honestly. Well, anyway, she is telling people that she is absolutely in control of her state of Michigan, and she is in control of the lives of the people who live there. Oh, really? And she said that she has included a ban on all gatherings anywhere for any reason of any size, including in people's private homes. Now, wait a minute. No, Governor Whitmer, you don't have that kind of power, and nor can you enforce it. Don't let the door hit you in the backside on the way off the front porch steps. And then this is the kicker. Caller, stand by. I'll be right there. She said that if Michigan residents own more than one home, like you get a home maybe outside of Detroit or outside of Lansing or someplace, but you like to get up in the North Woods, up by Escanaba, up in that country, she's banned these people, supposedly banned them from traveling between their other home. Maybe they want to get away from the crowds. Maybe they want to get away from the doggone possibility of coronavirus. Oh, but the Governor Whitmer is so much smarter and said, no, you can't go to your other home. I won't let you. Ridiculous. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, I just found something interesting. We were in Panama last summer on a trip, and a tour director gave us a little baseball cap that her mother had stamped and whatever. I just looked at it, and it was also made in China.
You've just solidified everything I've said, haven't you?
Interesting, huh?
Hey, I got to ask you something. I have never been there. The heat, the humidity, the bugs, and the mosquitoes. I've heard people say that's not a very nice place to visit most of the time. What did you find?
It was kind of during the rainy season, but we didn't have much rain, and it was beautiful. It was hot, but we went up in the mountainous area, and it was gorgeous, and we had a great time.
Now, up in the mountain area, is that, I'm trying to think and remember, is that country really heavily into growing mountain-grown coffee?
Yes, it is.
I see. Did you run into Juan Valdez leading his donkey up the hill?
No, we didn't.
Okay. I have a feeling that you're going to be checking. Is your husband at home?
No, he passed away, and he didn't go with us.
I am so sorry. I'm so sorry to hear this, but I would imagine that a lot of people are going to be checking right now their husband's baseball caps to see how many really say China this morning.
All right.
Hey, God bless you. Thank you so much for your call. You're a very nice lady. Appreciate that. I tell you what, honestly, I don't think there's and I did a little checking on this morning, and I got probably, 30, 35 caps here in my office that represent various rodeos that I announced over the many, many years, and the sponsorships and everything. They all say China inside of them. Absolutely ridiculous. What do you think about the governors? Like this Governor Whitmer back in Michigan saying, "Thou shalt not go to your other home. If we catch you out on the highways, we're going to arrest you." You can't do that. We're giving Adrian Arp and others have called in many, many times talking about the lack of freedom or the loss of freedoms that we're suffering. They can't turn themselves into a Gestapo like that. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I heard this on the radio, and I couldn't hardly believe it, but some of these county sheriffs and maybe even state officers are instructed to give you a ticket because that's how we're going to pay your salary. So get out and get the job done. Now, that is really, really wrong.
I can't verify that. And, Keith, you're going against my grain somewhat because if it's not verifiable and it's speculation, I won't cover it on my program, but I will check into it. And that doesn't mean that there's a problem out there that doesn't need to be addressed and opened up to the public. But like I said, unless it's bona fide fact, I'm not going to cover it on this program.
Well, I will tell you a fact then, that if Joe Biden doesn't pick somebody that most people like, he's really going to go down the drain.
Yeah, and he's caller number 2, hold on a second. He's committed through his own stupidity to say that he was absolutely going to pick a female running mate. So he can't back out of this now. Oh my, Joe's got himself in a real bad problem. He made that commitment, but you know something? On the Democratic side, I don't see too many females like Kamala Harris or Warren or good Lord help us all, Hillary Clinton or this Whitmer. I mean, my goodness, the pool of water does not run very deep.
Well, this global charge, Char, or however you pronounce it,
Klobuchar
would be the best pick he could make, but I still wouldn't vote for him.
Amy Klobuchar's got some holes in her screen door, too, so we'll go into that a little bit later, but I do appreciate your call, and when you find out anything that's bona fide fact on what you said, call me back. We'll do some research. Keith, God bless you, man. Thanks.
Okay, bye.
All right. Hey, caller number 2, do me a favor and just stand there for 30 seconds. I'll be right there, I promise. I want to tell everybody about Berry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts, and they got a brand spanking new inventory for this year. Oh, my. They've got all the Bobcats, they've got all the Doosan wheel loaders and the excavators, and they've got all the trenchers, and they've got all the scissor lifts, and they've got all the Walker lawnmowers. Holy cow. You better get in there today. The greatest of financing programs and lease programs, Berry Equipment and Rental. 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin and Nampa, Berry Equipment and Rental. Caller, you've been very patient. Thank you very much.
Morning, Zeb. I heard that same story on the police department there. I don't know how factual it is. I'll tell you there, I belong to the National Rifle Association, have since 1970. Every year or every 3 years or whatever, when you do your renewal, they send a hat to you. I mean, this is National Rifle Association of America. And like you say, you open the little tag up in the back, it says Made in China.
Oh, boy.
I sent the last 6 of them back to the NRA.
Good for you.
I will not wear it.
Good for you. You know what I noticed recently? And I want to throw this at you and get your response. Now, were you involved in farming and agriculture?
Transportation thereof, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, good. You can give me a good straight answer on this. In the latest of the Farm Bureau magazine that comes out every month here in the state of Idaho for the Idaho Farm Bureau, it was talking and had a nice story in there about the FFA giving away a tractor on a drawing, and the tractor is made in Japan. Now, of all things, I would think the FFA would go and try to solicit an American-made tractor, a John Deere, whatever, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. That's just about as ridiculous as, the NRA since 1871.
Yeah.
And having the hats made in China. Now, how American is that?
Yeah, I'm on your side 100%. I'd rather pay more and buy American by far. Sir, God bless you and have a wonderful day. Stay well. Stay well. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Zeb.
All right, buddy. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. Yeah, we're really paying the price. We let the Chinese and the World Trade Organization, Zeb, and since that time, our trade deficit with China before that was 0. And, of course, now it's like $600 billion a year. I think, of course, Trump is doing his best to try to bring it down. But, here are all of our drugs and so forth. Everything you go to the store is made in China, and we're paying the price for that now because they literally hold us, right grabbed by the throat, and we can't trust them. And here we are. I think even our military boots, our military uniforms are made in China.
Yeah.
That's really creepy, but I think the scariest thing that's coming down the road is Fauci and company. They want to have this immunization card. That's the mark of the beast coming right at us, Seb. What do you think about that?
No, I agree with you, and I'm doing some more research, and I've got a guest coming on about that next week, as a matter of fact. I think that right now, the gullibility of the American public, and I'm saying this not out of disrespect whatsoever, but the gullibility of the American public, because they are afraid of what the media has told them how bad the coronavirus is, and they're in fear, they're in shock, they're worrying about their loved ones, and the gullibility of the American public to have their rights taken away or stripped without them even really knowing about it. I think we are at a very, very critical time.
Oh, absolutely. And you have to remind these politicians, they're going to get a paycheck. Fauci, Birx, the governor, all the bureaucrats are getting their checks. They're not having to suffer at all. And yet they take an oath of office, the U.S. Constitution, to protect our Bill of Rights. And our Bill of Rights are just being trampled on when people are getting fines to attend church, even if it's spaced out. I mean, $500 fines in Kentucky, I believe, or someplace. Anyway, this is critical. And if they get this immunization card thing and require everybody to get a vaccination, or you're going to be able to travel across state lines, you're going to have to show your papers. This is a communist country. That's what we're becoming, Deb.
Well, and I would say at this juncture, have they done the same thing with SARS? Did they do the same thing with the various very deadly strains of the flu? Did they do the same thing with any disease? They never, ever in the past, look at polio back in the 50s and 60s, of which this sounds egotistical, but it's the truth, and it's unfortunate. I know probably more about than anybody else. They didn't do any of this so-called curtailment of lifestyle. They didn't make sure that people had to get a card before they could go to the grocery store or drive across state lines to visit Aunt Martha. And I see a lot of this coming down the pike, like you're mentioning, that are against any and all of our constitutional values.
Well, and just a reminder, I didn't realize this, and it's finally coming out. You realize how many flu deaths we had 2 winters ago?
Yeah.
80,000.
Yeah.
80,000. And right now, I think we're in the 20s, 2,000, something like that was the latest numbers from this, in my opinion, very weak virus. But it's not killing the kids. It's mainly affecting the average age of death is about 80. I know, Zeb, you and I are getting closer to that, but you have to be careful. And I tell you, but their models are worthless.
Yeah.
And, right now their model's down from 2.2 million to 60,000. You do the math, that's 2.7% of the original projection.
Yeah.
And it's dropping all the time. And so we're being led down the criminal path to the total country destruction of our economy. Of course, they want to get rid of Trump in the process, too.
I agree with you, Adrian. I got another call, but your points are well taken with me this morning. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. God bless.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Caller, I'm going to hesitate on the weather just for a minute or two and take your call first. So go ahead. You're on the air.
Jeb.
Yes.
I have a cap in my hands that says Trump 2020. On the brim, it's got a picture of the United States flag. Right below Trump, it's got 3 white stars in blue with red going to like a flag. But you look inside, and it says made in China.
See?
Never worn it.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. Right there again is my point. I really think that there are companies, if they're not, there should be. Maybe they've already had to go out of business because of the competing low prices from China, but I'm buying American, man. I'd go without. I have gone without various products because I will not support the Chinese. I will not do it. Are you there?
Oh, yes, I'm here. I listen to you every day.
Well, God bless you for checking that out. And there again, President Trump and administration members and people that come up with all the trinkets, the caps and the shirts and everything, they better look at their whole card right now because we're on to them. If they're going to try to buy it cheaper by having to go through China, forget it. Throw it away. Don't even buy it.
Thank you.
God bless you, sir. Thank you. You know, I got to check. During the break, I'm going to check. I got to Make America Great Again cap in the background. For those of you that are watching on the cameras right now for the internet that go on zebbell.com, you can see behind me, oh boy, there's a lot of stuff behind me in this office, let me tell you. But I've got a red cap over there. I got to check and see where that was made. Weather forecast brought to us this hour by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And boy, I'll tell you what, their phones are open 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and they're happy to answer any questions you may have about your hearing health. Please call the number 312-0957. My lovely bride just came in and she's getting that cap to check on it. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, always providing expert diagnostic testing combined with the best technology to provide the most comprehensive treatment for your hearing health. Please give them a call today. Make an appointment. Don't put it off. 312-0957. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Sunshine for today, rain showers for tomorrow. Welcome to spring here in the Magic Valley. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Mostly sunny skies for today. We are expecting a high of 53. Tonight, clouds are going to be rolling in with a low of 39. Tomorrow, it's going to be cloudy, windy, and rainy. High of 56. Looks like winds could gust as high as 40 miles an hour by tomorrow night. That's going to be tapering down just a little bit. We are expecting wind gusts as high as 34 miles an hour, and we are expecting a low right around 30. For Thursday, back to mostly sunny skies, high of 50. By Friday, sunny mid-50s. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you. And once again, don't forget Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and they are right behind the Minidoka Hospital across from the emergency room, and the number to call these wonderful people, 312-0957. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. It's, what do I want to say here? Because, you know, I'm kind of a redneck anyway. I am going to give another week to this stay at home with the governor's edicts. After next week on Tuesday, all bets are off because I've had it, and I don't think it's necessary, and I'm going to do all I can to support businesses that are advertising with me, and I'm going to promote them. I am not going to let them think that we're not standing behind them. We have followed like sheep and have done almost everything we've been told to stay at home, hunker down, wear a mask, and everything else. I've had enough. I'm an old man. I'm 72 years old. And I have no inkling, nor do you, as to how much time the good Lord's going to give me in the future. I am not going to spend that future being locked into the confines of my home. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. You know, I've got two hats here. One of them is for the Declo American Legion. Well, both of them are for the Declo American Legion. One of them's Army and one of them's Air Force. And both of them say, proudly made in the USA.
Good.
Eagle Crest, official military headwear.
Good. Amen. I'm glad to hear that.
That are not China.
Well, good deal.
Member of the Declo American Legion, or an honorary member.
Absolutely, and I'm proud to have you call and say that. But you will agree with me, my dear friend Jerry Voss, that I'll stand behind what I said earlier. 90% of them are going to say made in China.
Well, I wouldn't not argue a bit with that.
Yeah.
I was surprised when it said, made in the USA.
Yeah.
And I'm proud to call in and say, when we bought our hats, we got ones that were made in the USA.
God bless you, man. I appreciate that. Jerry, I always can depend on you to give us the straight truth and the facts. Thank you, sir. God bless you for your call.
You have a wonderful day, and may the Lord bless you and your whole audience, every last one of them.
All right, Jerry, thank you.
Democrats that hide behind the blanket and call in.
All right, Jerry, thank you very much. Have a good day, buddy. Wheels, could we please have this good word for the primaries?
Idaho's primary election is on Tuesday, May 19th. Here's Representative Fred Wood to explain this year's voting by mail.
All citizens who are registered to vote will receive postcards by mail from the Secretary of State within the next 2 weeks. Please fill out this application to request your absentee ballot, then mail. When you receive your ballot, vote and mail according to instructions prior to May 19th. Please vote absentee ballot prior to May 19th, paid for Fred Wood campaign.
Thank you, Fred. Appreciate that. Don't forget, everybody, that I've gone through this 1,000 times, and tomorrow Fred's going to be on the air again, that this is going to be easy if we just sit down and pay attention to the facts. So please don't forget, the May 19th primary election will be conducted by absentee ballot by mail. Don't forget that, please. This time and this time only, please. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Yeah, enough is enough. And we have adhered to and administered the feelings and thoughts of the governor and, for that matter, our national government by staying and hunkering down in place, doing and playing by the rules of what they said. But now I am at a point where after this next week, when the 21 days are up, Governor Little has stated, I am going to start doing things my way. Now, that might sound cold and callous to some of you, but we are all individuals living in a so-called free society, and as long as we are abiding by the laws of the land, our way, my way, whatever, that's what we need to do. I've had it. I am going to say that on the radio publicly. It's not a point of saying, well, I'm going to hunker down, and they're going to extend it to June, and they're going to extend it to July. The good Lord is in control of what is or isn't going to happen. And I have done my part to this point, and I will do my part up to the point of where they said, well, the 21 days, we'll review it at that juncture. Well, I'm also going to review it at that juncture and see what I think. What are your thoughts? Quickly, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And when you listen to the likes of Governor Whitmer of Michigan saying, well, you've got a cabin up in the North Woods, but I'm not going to allow you to go there, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out they'd be safer up there. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Bell. I live 8 miles from the state of Utah. On that, we're very good friends, but they have gotten out to where if we cross the state line, we get a text on our cell phone asking us what we're doing there because the state's locked down, and when you shut your vehicle off, you get a link to explain all your travel plans and everything, and that we go across the line a couple times a week. So what we've been doing is just shutting off our location status on our cell phones. They're tracking us on our cell phones to keep track of us, I guess.
Good.
You shut it off, they don't even know you're there.
Good. Don't even take it on your person if you don't have to. Any way that you can show a little sign of rebellion and anarchy for the people that are trying to subvert our Constitution and our rights and our freedoms, I'm all in favor of it.
Well, and that's the biggest thing. A lot of people don't know you can do that, but that's what we're doing because we cross the line couple times a week.
Yeah, and I know what you're doing. I know who this is. Hold on a second. I know who you are, and I know that you're doing and crossing the line for business purposes to make a living, right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Well, that's my whole point of saying go ahead, do it. I don't like the fact that Big Brother is in your hip pocket or your shirt pocket, knowing your heartbeat and where you are 24/7, 365.
Well, and that's me. That's like communism, when they're keeping track of you every second of the day, and that's how they're doing it is by our phones.
Yeah.
You know, and that, so that's what we're doing. We're back to work. So keep up the good work, buddy, and we'll listen to the show.
All right, you too, and thank you for your call. God bless you. We are running a little bit late. I got to run to the news right now with Wheels over at the main studio. We'll be back in about 7 minutes. Good morning and welcome back to hour number 2 on this Tuesday, April 14th. My goodness, Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations are open, all 7 locations serving you. Safe, clean environment, and the best in tires and services for your vehicle. Best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all of this and more. Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And don't forget Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. And right now, this good word for Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all in the Georgia struggle. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Western Waste Services, don't forget to get on the route service. If you're new in the area, don't forget, call this number at 734-6969. I'll repeat it, 734-6969. Western Waste Services, they'll come get your garbage once a week. It's gone. It's out of there. Always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, thank you very much. Want to also give a great big shout out to a business that absolutely is in the business of serving you, to help you get back to being you, and that's, of course, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Nick Greenwell and all the physical therapists, and I mean this, they are really conscientious and caring and want to make sure that you get back with the overcoming of surgeries or an accident, whatever, all the aching and paining. Please give them a call. They are serving you. Absolutely. 678-1191. Pain doesn't take a holiday. Please give them a call. 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. And before we go to my dear friend Dan Kish, I want to remind you, too, about our friend Joel Heward, his family, and staff that are serving you and your family. In the passing of a loved one, they are there. They are there and always providing the families they serve with the best possible support and comfort, and always upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. They care. They absolutely care. Please remember the number. Hanson Mortuary, 436-5636. I'll repeat it again, 436-5636. And Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Let's go to the phone line right now, and a real friend of this program, going to be on the air right now with the American Energy Alliance, and that's Dan Kish. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm okay. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm going to ask you something that's way off the track, way off the rails of what we're going to be discussing as far as energy and everything. But, I made a statement last hour that I am going to adhere to our governor's basically stay at home for the duration. It ends sometime, I think, next Tuesday. And then he's going to reevaluate as to what he's going to say we could do, can't do, that type of thing. Dan, I think it's about high time for the American people to look at their own responsibilities in a free society and make that decision instead of government. How wrong or how far off base do you think I am?
Well, it's as you know, Zeb, it's a tough calculation. But I don't disagree with you. I am getting a little bit, I'm starting to hear some of these stories from across the United States where these governors seem to be just going crazy. I mean, people are going to church in their automobiles, so it's like a drive-in church, and they're arresting them. You got the governor of Michigan says it's okay to go out in a kayak, but you can't take your motorboat out fishing. And you can't ride a motorcycle. That's somehow unessential, despite the fact that, plenty of people use that as their principal means of getting around. Sheep in a flock, shepherded by people are... there's a desire... Sometimes it's dangerous to give certain people a badge, and some people have got a badge now, and they seem to be abusing their power.
That's very well stated. And my attitude is this, that I'm going to take my own personal precautions. If I feel like I'm going to be possibly up against someone and or with a group of someone's, I will wear a face mask. I'm going to social distance. But I've reached the point where I don't need a governor telling me what I can do. I can't leave the house, and if I travel across here, I've got to basically be checked and stopped. I mean, I've had it with the infringement on our personal freedoms. You mentioned one governor, and that Whitmer out of Michigan, telling people that if they own two homes, one is a cabin up in the North Woods, they can't go up in the North Woods to enjoy that cabin. Actually, it'd be a safer place for them to be anyway. I mean, this is ludicrous that they're exercising powers they don't have.
Well, that's right. We're not a country where you have to show your papers in order to justify your going somewhere, Zeb. And that, unfortunately, is what it's becoming in some places. I mean, the Michigan example, she's just going hog wild. It's like she has darn near declared martial law or something. Yeah. And, there's terrible cases over in Detroit, but I grew up on the western side of Michigan. People go fishing. People go, they're stuck at home. It's fishing season. They'd like to get out on the water, and the governor says, well, if you want to do it in a kayak or a canoe, something that doesn't have a motor on it, that's fine, but somehow if you use a motor, that's prohibited. So there's entire people who are, and what about people that need a motor to get around?
Yeah.
It seems awfully. It seems like they're picking and choosing, and they're just applying martial law across the board. And I don't know how much longer Americans are going to put up with this, because this isn't something this isn't something we're number one used to, and of course these are different times. But number two, we've got rights under the Constitution, and when they start infringing on those rights, that's time for people to step up.
Yeah, and you just made the point about going out, and I've fished and have lived on the shores of Lake Michigan during the summer months in Escanaba and Gladstone area of Michigan, of which I know you're familiar. And as far as going out on Lake Michigan in the spring in a kayak, trying to fish and watch out for the waves and the storms, no, I'm going to have a gas Mercury that's going to get me the heck out of Dodge City if all of a sudden the weather turns bad.
Yep, you got that right. I wouldn't want to be out there. And besides, what is this? It's fine for somebody to go tooling around in a kayak or a canoe, but it's not okay to use a motor. What is the difference?
Yeah.
Give me a good reason for why that's the case, and I might at least listen to it. But she hasn't done that, and the idea that people are stuck at home and they have a place on a river or lake or in the woods somewhere, and they want to go there with their family, and they cannot go to their own property that they pay taxes on and own, and maybe they want to do a little work around the place to fix it up, and yet she's saying, no, you can't leave your home for that. And you could be receive a summons or something if you do. I mean, this isn't America.
Well, okay, wait a minute, though. Stop, Dan, because you said something very important. And receive a summons or a ticket or something. I think, and you and I have known each other for years, and I'm redneck enough that if you stop me when I know that I'm legal and I know that I'm not doing anything illegal or illicit, and I'm a citizen of the United States, I'm going to tear that ticket up and throw it not in your face because that would be littering. I'm going to throw it on the floor of my pickup and smile at that person and tell them to have a good day someplace else.
Yeah, I think you're not alone in that, Zeb. I mean, that just doesn't, that isn't something Americans are used to. And going about our own personal business and having a police state enforce that is, I'm sorry, but, and we understand the gravity of the sickness and everything else, but, there are limits to how much people will take.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question. Caller, go ahead, please. You're on the air.
It's like occupied France in World War II. Where are your papers? It's something. Let me tell you why she doesn't want you to use a motor on your boat. She doesn't want the farmers to farm. And, it's probably because it's an engine and it's running. And it's environmental. Did you know that the people, the environmentalists across this world are jumping with glee because the amount of CO2 running into the air has dropped, considerably, and they think it's great. In other words, the truth of the matter is the ruling elite would like, in some cases, would like to get rid of lots of people, believe it or not, and in Michigan or any other Democratic state, they want to control you. Their true feelings come out, and she is probably I can't believe that the people of Michigan, who they elect the most terrible governors I've ever seen. I'll hang up.
Respond to the caller, please, Dan.
Yeah. As a native Michigander, I tend to agree with your caller. I just do not understand what happens. It seems to go back and forth, and he's right. I mean, the only thing I can conclude is that she doesn't want it because it has a motor. I mean, why would you tell somebody they can't go out on a motorcycle? You can use a truck or a car or something, but you can't go out on your motorcycle. And you can take your kayak or your canoe and you can paddle if your arms are good enough. But if you're, maybe you don't have the strength, or your fishing hole is further away than you'd like to paddle, that option doesn't exist. And across the board, this is getting, it's one thing. People are pretty much willing. Americans are willing to pitch in and help.
Yeah.
Asked to for the good of all.
And here's...
It seems like some politicians are taking advantage of the system, looking for opportunities to increase the powers of the state, and that's what they're doing. And there are states where you're required to show papers now. A friend of mine in Maryland is having to show papers. He has to carry papers to go to his job where he's considered an essential employee, and he has to have papers on him that they issued him in case he stopped and asked where he's going, what he's doing.
This is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. And, I'm a old cowboy on crutches, and kayaks and cowboys on crutches don't mix well. If I had a boat on a lake and it's tethered there and it's a source of enjoyment for me and my wife at my later age, I am not going to adhere to the enforcement. This is what it's going to take, Dan, is a rebellion for common sense and for the real law. We're going to have to stand up and look them in the eye and say, go ahead and write out all the citations you want. But when we go to court, I'm going to laugh when they take your badge away.
Well, and Zeb, I think that's what's beginning to happen. I mean, this past weekend there was a mayor in Kentucky who said that people couldn't go to an outside church service in their cars.
That's wrong.
They didn't even get out of their cars. The cars are 8 feet apart. Spaced, and they listened to the sermon on the radio. It's Easter Sunday, and they were going to write people up. Literally, the only people breaking the social distancing norms were the policemen who were ordered by their mayor to interrupt people's church going to issue them citations, and luckily a judge stepped in and said, no, this is outrageous, and besides, people can't go to church, but they can go to a liquor store?
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, and here we are.
You can buy lottery tickets in most of these states, but you can't attend a church in your car and listen to it on the radio. It's almost as though their biases are showing.
Yeah.
Isn't it, Zeb?
I couldn't agree with you more. And here's the other thing, too, is that petroleum products, and I don't have to tell you this because you're the expert, petroleum products right now across the board, United States, East Coast, West Coast, we're looking at where gas probably is falling below a national average of $1.86, $1.87 right that per gallon, but we can't go anywhere. And look at the stoppage of what could happen in our economy just by opening up people to say, yeah, you can travel, yeah, you can do this. Our economy would at least start to grow in that respect, but we can't go anywhere and enjoy these lower fuel prices.
Well, that's right, Zeb, and it is going to start hitting. Everybody's been fairly comfortable because we've had plenty of food and all the rest, but we're just hearing stories today that Smithfield, which is a big pork producer, owned by the Chinese, by the way, but the largest pork producer in the United States, is closing some of its plants because of this thing. So before too long, there are going to be repercussions, which is why, the president is right. They keep criticizing him, but he keeps talking about the need to get America back on its feet. We're not used to sitting at home, hiding out, while the government tells us what we can't do. And some of these governors have just gone to an extreme. My observation is they tend to be Democrats for the most part. But telling people they can't go to church and they can't go fishing and they can't go to homes that they own is, I hope it rubs Americans the wrong way, because it should.
But the only question I have, give me a short answer on this and then we'll take a call. The only question I have, Dan, is this. I am so afraid that the American public in its entirety, in a trying effort to get along and be along with the rationale of the government of not spreading this virus, I'm afraid that they're almost ready to capitulate and get rid of their rights in order to support a stay-at-home order, and that is wrong.
Well, I think it was Ben Franklin that said that if you give up your freedom for security, you'll have neither.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a quick question. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, I wanted you gentlemen to respond to how Dr. Fauci backed off on his statements on CNN on Sunday. He did an interview, and then on yesterday he had to change his tune. I think Mr. Donald J. Trump had a little talk with him. You know, it isn't up to Fauci whether or not we go back to work. It's up to Trump. And, I think that we can do this state by state. I'll hang up.
I agree with most everything the caller said. What about you, Dan?
Well, I definitely think that this should be state by state and, with some guidance from D.C. in terms of what they're seeing. As for Dr. Fauci, he's got a long career in here, but let's put it this way, Zeb. What's happened here is they have relied on these folks. The president has turned over a lot of the advice giving to some people whose principal role is to look into viruses and diseases and the like. And if you did that, if the president said all decisions about land use in the United States would be made by the National Park Service, you'd end up with a lot of things happening that we probably, a lot of folks would find hard to swallow. And maybe it was necessary for a while, but ultimately it's the president has to weigh all of these things. Just like it's the president that has to weigh decisions of war and everything else, and that's what we hire him to do. And at times, some of these folks get out in front of their skis. What can I say?
I think that was an excellent way to put it. We've got just enough time to take one quick call. Caller, real fast. Go ahead.
Okay, fast. Last weekend, my friends convinced me not to go out of town to go fishing. Now, I just left the police department a minute ago and asked the boys there, and they said, we got to wait till tomorrow for Governor Little to lift the 21-day thing. And I want to go fishing this coming weekend, and, so I'm waiting for Little tomorrow.
I would tell you this, sir, and I mean this. I think if you know me, you know I'm telling you the truth. I would go fishing anyway. I would not, and I will not, adhere to any of the new edicts as far as thou shalt stay here. You want to go fishing, you're not bothering anybody out on that water. You're not congregating in a large group. You're not going to cause or spread any kind of a virus. You want to go fishing. You want to enjoy your life. I say go do it. Dan, respond to the caller, please. Maybe you disagree with me.
I'm all for fishing.
All right. All right. That was a short answer.
What can I say?
God bless you. Hey, caller, thank you so much.
The whole country should put up a sign on his businesses said, go on fishing.
You made my day. Hey, Dan Kish, we didn't even get into the topics that we were going to discuss, but it was a good discussion. God bless you, my dear friend. Stay well, and we'll talk to you next week on Tuesday.
You betcha, Zep. God bless you and your listeners.
All right. Thank you much. Everybody go fishing. Absolutely. I love that. Wheels, my dear old partner, would you please play this good word for the May 19th primaries?
Idaho's primary election is on Tuesday, May 19th. Here's Senator Kelly Anton to explain this year's voting by mail.
The outcome of every election we have is determined by who shows up to vote. This year, Idaho's primary election is a mail-in only election. It's not ideal, and it's not the way we'd like to do it. But your vote does make a difference for all of us in Idaho. So please, first request a ballot, then mail it in, and make your voice heard. This message is paid for by the Anthem for Idaho Senate candidate.
And I appreciate Kelly. Thank you very much, Senator Kelly Anthon. Want to remind you, too, about our friends at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. And I urge you to call them. Here, write this number down, 436-4771. They've had a change in their hours, and they're doing service work on your vehicles. And I urge you to call and check out all the brand new four-wheelers in the showroom. Oh, my goodness. They've got a showroom full over there. And they're offering right now on the service work, by the way, 15% off on all service work. I think it's through the end of April, so don't waste a moment. Call them and get your outfit scheduled at 436-4771. Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. Yes, sir, this is where the fun is sold, at Let's Ride. And before we go to our guest, I also want to remind you about some other great folks over in that area, just up the road, as a matter of fact, and that's Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. I mean, when you're talking life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, you want to work with the people that really know and understand your situation. Absolutely. They're dedicated and responsive to your needs. Todd and the crew at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. All you have to do is just basically pick up the phone and call the number, make an appointment, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Right now, we're going to go to the phone line, and with us on the phone is an attorney with the Pacific Legal Foundation, and that's Glenn Roper. Glenn, sir, how are you?
I'm doing well. Good morning, Zeb. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Wheels over at the station, turn him up quite a bit. I can barely hear him, please. Glenn, you're back, I believe, by the look at the area code, back in Denver, Colorado, right?
That's exactly right.
And this morning, what are the steps that are being taken in Denver and, for that matter, the state of Colorado regarding the coronavirus and what to do, what not to do, that type of thing?
Well, we are on a stay-at-home order by the governor. I've got all my 4 kids here doing school from home. It's been canceled through the end of the school year, other than what we're doing with them at home. We're all working from home and sort of shut in until we hear more news.
When you say until you hear more news, what does that mean? I mean, you're not allowed to go out of your home. You can't go to the grocery store. If you wanted to take a hike up in the hills, you can't. I mean, explain that a little bit.
Yeah, it's nothing that bad. Essential businesses are open, and those are ones that the governor designated as essential. That includes grocery and whatnot. We're allowed to go out for exercise. The governor has encouraged us to wear masks anytime we're out of doors.
Now, when you say anytime you're out of doors, I guess I've got to ask you, Glenn, when you're up in the mountains, especially in Colorado, Idaho, Wyoming, etc., you're not really going to run into 30, 40 people on the same hiking trail or when you go camping or anything else. I mean, you're not talking about herds of humans.
Yeah, and the governor hasn't been entirely clear about that. My personal philosophy is if I'm not within contact with other people, I'm fine walking around without a mask on and doing what I need to do, and I don't think there's any risk from that.
It says on the information sheet I have here, Glenn, that you were going to talk about how the regulatory state failed to take crucial steps to protect Americans from COVID-19. What do you mean by that?
Well, thank you for asking about that. And this is related to a piece I wrote. It's available on our website at pacificlegal.org. We're a nonprofit law firm that provides representation to ordinary Americans where the government's getting in the way. And what I wrote about in that piece, Zed, is, when you have something like this, a pandemic or a scare of this type, you really need information. And the way that we could have gotten information and needed information in the first crucial weeks was through testing. Now, unfortunately, what we saw is that some of these big government entities that we call the regulatory state that kind of take charge of way too much of Americans' lives. They instituted some rules saying we're the only ones who can provide the testing. These state-run labs, they can't do tests. They can't create tests. Universities, they can't create tests. Private medical laboratories that are experts in creating these kinds of tests, they can't do it either. It's all got to be done by the federal government agencies. And that's bad enough, but then when the agencies started sending out their tests, they didn't work. And so we lost these first few crucial weeks when we could have identified where the virus is, where it's spreading, simply because our federal government wasn't willing to let the American people, the experts in this field, including private and state-run laboratories, create tests so that we could start identifying the virus.
You know, I'm sitting here, and this last half hour, we had a talk with Dan Kish with the American Energy Alliance, and we got sidetracked a little bit in regards to talking specifically about energy, and we were talking about our loss of our constitutional rights. And I'm going to be very frank with you, Glenn. I am at a point of bitterness right now against the federal government making edicts and telling me what I can do, where I can't go, what is admissible or permissible during the day, tracking me on phones, etc. This isn't the America that I grew up in.
You know, the proper role of government, in my view, really is the protecting of individual rights.
That's right.
And when government starts to go beyond that and exceed the scope of its property-limited functions as set out in our Constitution, that raises a lot of concerns. And at the Pacific Legal Foundation, our goal and purpose and priorities are pushing back against government when it steps out of those assigned roles.
You know, let's take, and if I'm getting too far in the weeds on this, draw me back onto the path, but I'm just going to mention this. We talked about Governor Whitmer last half hour, the governor of Michigan, making, I think, stupid, frivolous statements like, if you owned a cabin up in the North Woods of Michigan, you're not allowed to go up there. Or if you're going to go out on any of the waterways, like Lake Michigan itself, you can only go on a kayak without a boat and motor. What kind of insensibility is that?
You know, I think as Americans, for the most part, we're pretty reasonable. And we understand that when there's a crisis, when there's an emergency, we tend to give the government a lot of leeway in doing some initial reactions. As time goes along and as these restrictions are more and more damaging to our economy, I think we start to get a little fed up about it, and you know, we've got a history back from revolutionary times, but we're ready to push back against a government that goes too far. And I think we start feeling that some of those same things, especially when, like you talked about, they simply don't make sense. And I think the government has a responsibility not only for protecting our individual rights and keeping aware of them, but also explaining to us why some of these restrictions are put in place. I don't think they've done a good job of that.
Well, Glenn, you as an attorney, I mean, you can tell me, hey, Zeb, don't stretch the chain too far here. But if I were to go right now fishing today, and I wanted to go maybe by myself with my own little motorized 10-foot boat, whatever the case might be. I am absolutely not going to be told I can't go if I'm not going to be bothering or hindering anybody in a free society, if I have all the legalities of a license, etc. And I think it's time for people to stand up and say to anyone that's trying to inhibit, whether it's law enforcement with a ticket or whatever, stand up, tear the ticket up, and go to court, because I don't think they're giving you a ticket will stand in court because they're absolutely infringing on your rights. How wrong am I?
Well, again, you know, the government definitely does have emergency powers and can act to protect the public health and safety. And I certainly wouldn't, you know, I think your listeners should make their own decisions. I don't want to encourage them to you know, push back or not follow through what they're being told to do individually, but I do think that we have a right to push our government and ask them to explain and to clarify. And, there are going to be some people that are doing that push back on some of these restrictions and do go to court. Hopefully we can get some clarity, and hopefully our government officials can recognize that Americans are starting to get a little fed up with some of these restrictions and can ease them in a responsible way.
You made a very good point a few minutes ago about the testing procedures, and I want you to elaborate on that a little bit, but let me say this. This whole situation of saying that the government has to be in complete control over the testing, etc., maybe had they opened this up to where it could have been by state or by county or by whatever, a group of doctors, whatever, in every state to help with the testing, maybe this thing wouldn't have got as far out of hand as it had through only going through the federal government. Your thoughts? Tell me again if I'm wrong.
I think if we look at the country of South Korea, it's instructive. Now, I don't like everything that South Korea has done in responding to the pandemic, but I think one thing that they got right was the testing. The first cases in South Korea showed up the same day that they showed up in the United States, and their response was pretty different. What they did, they pulled together the private medical companies, they pulled together streamlined regulations. They told them, we want tests. We're going to make it easy for you. We're not going to put up a lot of bureaucratic red tape. And we want to set up these drive-by testing centers. Because of their different response at a time when the United States was really behind the eight ball and testing, 100 people a day, they were testing 10,000 people a day. And in my estimation, the United States is second to none in terms of entrepreneurship and ingenuity and the ability to marshal our scientists and research laboratories. We could have been testing, 20, 50,000 people a day if the government had unlocked these handcuffs of saying, nope, it's all got to go through this constricted federal government. So, Zeb, I think you hit the nail right on the head that if the United States had decided to approach this in a different way, we could have gotten a lot more information, again, during those first few crucial weeks when we could have identified, and maybe, who knows exactly what would have happened, but with that information, we could have taken some different steps. And maybe could have stopped this thing in its tracks a little better than we did.
Well, Glenn, I guess we need to define, and you can help me on this, the WHO. The WHO, not the World Health Organization, but the WHO in our government, in our country, really had the hammer down on thou shalt only go through us. I mean, who? Let's name some peoples. Let's name some groups. If it's President Trump, let's name him. I don't think it was, but please tell me.
The two entities that I talk about in my article are the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, and the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. I'm pleased with some of the things that they've done to respond, but I think it was very problematic that early on they decided, nope, all tests have to be done through the CDC process. We're shutting out these other, anyone else who would like to do testing. We're putting up regulatory hurdles and red tape and creating this weeks-long approval process because they were so concerned about getting everything exactly perfect that, it's a situation where the perfect was an enemy of the good. They wanted everything to be exactly perfect and controlled and funneled through Washington, and it shut out these top-notch laboratories. As an example, Stanford University. I read an article that I referenced in my piece where Stanford University, once they finally opened up the testing, they looked at the bureaucratic regulatory process and approval process and said, we're out. We're not going to take the time to go through that because you've made it just too hard. And so if you have these great, best-in-the-world types of labs that we have in the United States that aren't willing to participate because the government is making it too hard, something has gone terribly wrong.
Well, Okay, now let's stretch this a little bit further into perhaps the development of inoculations and vaccines and everything else. Are they also playing like this is our football, you go home and find your own, or are they going to open up testing and studies and all the other great academia in this country, Stanford, Rutgers, Princeton, Yale? I mean, are they going to open it up so that all minds feel welcome to contribute?
I think they are doing better with respect to the vaccine, and in fact, that's one of the things I'm pleased with is that they are taking down some of the regulatory hurdles where a vaccine normally would take 5 to 10 years to develop. They're trying to streamline the process and really allowing the American entrepreneur to get involved in the testing in a way that is going to cut that down dramatically. Not as much as I'd like. It'd be great if we could have vaccines starting before the fall flu season. It may be, reports that I'm hearing, it may be into next year before we're getting vaccines, but that still is light years faster than the usual process.
What do they have as far as overseeing what they're doing? In other words, is there a Matt Dillon playing sheriff in Dodge City over the CDC and the FDA?
The Trump administration, and this is part of the problem with the regulatory state, is you have a leadership that comes in, and you'll have an FDA commissioner, you'll have those appointed by the administration, but they only have limited authority, and you've got unelected bureaucrats that fill up these agencies and have been there, administration to administration, trying to do good work. I don't think they have ill motives. I just think they're misguided and maybe a little bit power hungry in viewing their role with respect to the country. So there are some administration officials that will come in and have oversight, but there's only so much they can do. And really the problem is with the structure of these agencies and how large and how expensive and how powerful they've become with respect to individual rights.
I see a power play here, Glenn, between like the likes of Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and the CDC and the FDA, the Trump administration, etc. Power plays. Thou shalt not do this. No, I'm going to do it anyway attitude. And we, the American people, can't go much longer. Our economy is right now got its boot heels over the edge of the cliff, ready to fall into the Grand Canyon, I think forever. We've got to get back to work. Your thoughts?
It's worrisome when you've got millions of Americans who are ready to work, who are willing to work, who want to work, and the only reason they are not working is because the government has told them you can't. This isn't a situation where businesses are failing because they don't have a good business model or they don't have a good work ethic or they're producing a poor product. That'd be something entirely different. Here, when the government comes in and says you've got to stop and shut down, it's a different situation, and it is worrisome. We can just hope that people will make responsible decisions and will be able to get back to work. I hope even after that time, when we're doing the post-mortem and the analysis after the fact, that people will not forget the role that the regulatory state has played, and that we can, among the various reviews that we're doing, we will also look into what can we do to shrink the power and the size and the growth of that bureaucracy.
One other thing, too, Glenn, that I want you to respond to is it's great to say, well, yeah, they've given me the green light. I can turn the key in the door and I can open it up and start working next Monday. But you might not have those employees. And very unfortunately, employees have gone elsewhere. And if they're applying for unemployment benefits, they've raised those benefits to the point where they can make almost as much money to sit home, watch Oprah Winfrey, and eat bonbons. And that's going to be a major problem.
The employers in this country want to help their employees. I think most employers really do care about the livelihoods of their employees, and they want them to be able to work and put food on the table and contribute. But you can only go so far. You can only hold on to employees so far, and unfortunately, we do see a lot of employees being furloughed, being let go. And I worry about that same thing as you, Zeb, is that when the businesses are ready to reopen, can they find those employees again and get them back and put them back to work?
You know, I absolutely want to give you a gold star to put up on your wall, or if you're out hiking, put it on a tree someplace. I want you to come back on this program in the future. Glenn, you are exceptionally good with the Pacific Legal Foundation, and tell my audience how they can follow your writings and other stories with the PLF.
Well, thank you so much, Zeb. It's been a pleasure to be with you. Again, our website is pacificlegal.org. If you go to the blog link at the top of the website, you can find my article. You can find some other articles we've done on COVID-19. I think we do some of the best work in the country as far as protecting individual rights and pushing back against government getting too much into our business.
Excellent report. Thank you so much, Glenn Roper, attorney with the Pacific Legal Foundation. God bless you, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, sir. Really thoroughly enjoyed having him on the program, and kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, he will be back. I can guarantee you that. Oh, I might not be if I don't get a weather forecast on here, and the weather brought to you by Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. These are people that are absolute professionals in accounting services to the Mini-Cash area, and they have been for well over 50 years. I mean, the best, serving you, your business, and your family. Tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, retirement planning, all of this and so much more. Offices in Burley and Rupert. Please get a hold of them today. Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Sunshine for today, rain showers for tomorrow. Welcome to spring here in the Magic Valley. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Mostly sunny skies for today. We are expecting a high of 53. Tonight, clouds are going to be rolling in with a low of 39. Tomorrow, it's going to be cloudy, windy, and rainy. High of 56. Looks like winds could gust as high as 40 miles an hour by tomorrow night. That's going to be tapering down just a little bit. We are expecting wind gusts as high as 34 miles an hour, and we are expecting a low right around 30. For Thursday, back to mostly sunny skies, high of 50. By Friday, sunny mid-50s. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Range.
Oh, my. I urge you to call Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. Telephone number in Burley, 878-7000. Over in Rupert, 436-5607. They are there to serve you. Please remember the professionals in accounting services, Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. Your turn. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd like to hear from you. I know what I said earlier this morning sounds really callous to some people and almost like I'm disregarding rules and regulatory means and methods from the governor and other sources. But I feel like we've adhered to those long enough. And I, for one, think that we need to open up the businesses. I, for one, feel we need to get back to work. And I also feel we need to absolutely use as much precaution as possible. And we can all use two words that, unfortunately, in America have been overlooked. Common sense. Want to remind you about 7K Metals, and you can help yourself build your financial security and future through silver purchases with 7K Metals. I am very fortunate that my wife and I found out about 7K Metals and how we can create our own security bank through silver purchases that come right to your home. Don't forget, a saving opportunity for you and a valued treasure for your loved ones in the future. I urge you to contact my friends Lon Hardy at 312-8699 or Sharon Wilmot at 430-3259 with 7K Metals. Once again, 7K Metals, helping you build a financial security and future. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Wheels, for some reason this morning we don't have, through the feed line, the best of quality, and I just want to make sure everything's okay on the air. Is it?
Yes, sir. Everything is fine, but I am going to boost some things at the top of the hour. So
Yeah, please, if you would, because it's just not coming through the way it should. Got time for a call or two? Give me a call. Terrible tornadoes down in the south, and I understand that over, what is it now, the death toll up to 33 people down in our southern states. Millions upon millions are without power. Devastating damage. I mean, it was absolutely horrendous. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes.
I just want to say, more or less make a statement. You know, when this coronavirus still could see that it was going to be nationally spread, the president of my church, you know, just shut everything down. Now, he didn't do that under a government order. He did it because it was the right thing to do. And that's what we need to do with America. We don't need the government telling we have to do something, right?
I don't like anybody telling anybody else or any group of people what to do, when they can do it, etc. I don't like that in a free society. I think those are powers that are exacerbated and go out of control.
Well, I agree with you there. But if you believe in leadership, true leadership, your pastor or whatever, if he decides that you shouldn't have services because of the spread, then that's up to him to tell you. But that's not going to prevent you from going to another church if you want to.
Yeah, that's true.
That's his reasoning there. And if you don't like that, then you can always go somewhere else. But with the government doing it, you got to do it their way. It's the only way.
Yeah, and one of the most hideous stories I've heard, and I've only got 30 seconds left here, Keith, one of the hideous stories I heard over Easter was having an in-car service in a huge parking lot, and it was beamed to each car via the radio, and they were broken up and threatened with arrest. I mean, that's asinine, that's criminal, and absolutely stupid.
Yes. When it comes to the outdoors, I think we need to take another look at things. In close proximity, that's a different situation, and I think it's wise that we adhere to that.
All right, my friend, I got to run. News is next. CBS, thank you for your call. We'll be back in about 7 minutes. Don't go away. Oh, good morning, and welcome back. Hour number 3, and of course brought to you by Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by, I almost forgot to tell you who I am, you know that, and brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. They are open and serving you in a safe, clean environment, the best in tires, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all of this and more at all 7 Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And don't forget, too, our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And our friends at Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Oh, Matt and Kelly Wiggins have built a beautiful 12-bedroom home that's absolutely phenomenal for senior living. And if you're out there listening, seniors, and are looking for a place to really reside with your friends and have 3 meals a day, snacks, housekeeping, etc., I urge you to call the number right now and make an appointment to come see the beautiful, brand spanking new facilities at 650-4979. That number again, 650-4979. Greystone Crossing Senior Living, where seniors live the good life with friends. Wheels, may we please have the good word for our friends with the May 19th primaries?
Idaho's primary election is on Tuesday, May 19th. Here's Speaker of the House Scott Bedke to explain this year's voting by mail.
This year it's going to be a little different. You will be getting an absentee ballot request form in the mail. Fill it out. Send it in. Then the county clerk will send you an absentee ballot form. This is how you vote. Fill it out. Mail it in by May 19th. If you have other questions, don't hesitate to call your county clerk's office. Paid for by Bedke for Idaho.
Very good. And Wheels, again, if you could turn up a little bit on that feed line of what's going on the air to my headsets, I'd appreciate it. And right now we're going to scoot on the phone line to our dear friend. Here he is with all of his radiant glory, locked up in his basement studio, Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb. How you doing this morning?
I've had enough of this. I want to go back to having you in the studio so that I can kind of give you a hard time in person instead of over the phone line.
I know. I agree. But I'm actually on a regular landline today, so I'm hoping things come through a little better.
Much. Absolutely. It's already a lot better. Thank you for doing that.
You bet. So before we get started, Zeb, I got to say hi to a couple of people.
Okay.
Dave in Michigan has 14 grandkids.
Oh, my.
And he's got a brother in Twin Falls, if you can imagine that.
Wow.
And then Bill, who grew up in Fort Pierre, and out where he's at, he can still see the wheel ruts of wagons that went through that area. So just want to say hi to Dave and Bill out there that wrote to me. So
you know, you are listened to via this segment on Zev at the Ranch, not only here in the United States, but many foreign countries. And what are they telling you about some of your historical stories of the Old West?
Just, they just enjoy them. That's all. They just kind of enjoy them. And some of them will send me information or suggestions for topics, or they'll tell me about somebody that I've never heard about. So I appreciate getting suggestions and corrections sometimes when I do something wrong, which happens on occasion, as you know. So anyway, I appreciate their phone calls.
Okay, now, over the last couple of weeks, I've really had a chance to delve into the old Western movies. Man, I've seen about 1,000 of them. What are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about buffalo drives.
Oh.
Okay. So picture this. Here, you get this picture in your mind, the glory of the hunt, okay? A handsome Indian brave, fearlessly mounted on a fine stallion. He sweeps through the herd, downing a shaggy buffalo with a single shaft from his powerful bow. And what greater pleasure could an Indian know? Well, that's not true. The picture is false. Now, it was perhaps invented by some Eastern romanticist who had never seen an Indian buffalo drive, never seen the herd or the work that was involved with that. And for a hunt, it was not a glorious pastime. It was dangerous. It was hard-working. Had to be undertaken as a means of preservation. And very few of the old Indian buffalo hunters ever spoke lightly of a hunt. It was hard work. It was dangerous. It was hot, dusty, all that. It was not a romantic type TV thing. But, not only was the Indian hunter in constant danger from the buffalo that he chased, but he was also vulnerable to attack from enemies. Now, people have probably never thought of that, but you see, each tribe was pretty jealous of their hunting grounds. And so sometimes wars broke out over choice hunting areas where the buffalo were. And so the need to set up semi-permanent corrals and traps were made, and the possession of a particularly good area was even more important. So the tribes, they had their conflicts just over hunting areas.
So you're telling me that the Indian tribes basically had problems like the old, back in Missouri, Hatfields and McCoys?
In a way, yeah. I mean, you think about the hunting areas, they were pretty strict on who got to go where. So there were some battles over that. But, before the Indian acquired either the horse or the gun, they had to devise a means to kill a great number of buffalo at comparatively small risk to themselves. And the most simple of these methods was called the buffalo. They called it a surround. A small herd was ringed in, and as the animals milled around the circle, they were closed in and gradually shot down. So that was one method, where they would just kind of surround them and get them milling around in a circle. Now, a refinement on this was the development of the corral-type enclosure with brush wings leading out into the prairie. The buffaloes driven into the corral were then killed by the hunters. And the main disadvantage was that the buffalo usually broke through the corrals. I mean, all they had was brush and sticks and stuff, so that wasn't real effective either. Now, probably at some early time, an enterprising hunter had witnessed a stampeding herd plunge to its death over the edge of a high cliff. So anyway, the Indians added driving buffalo over these edges to their other methods of hunting.
I see.
There's a place called Chugwater Creek in Wyoming, and it is said to have been named for the peculiar sound made by buffalo plunging over the cliff into the water below.
I can imagine it would be a different sound.
It would be, yeah. Talk about a belly flop, man.
Oh, my.
But anyway, sites ideal for drives of this kind were not common. Several conditions were necessary. The tribe had to be able to camp near the cliff, since a drive location was not much benefit if the meat and the hides had to be transported a long distance after they were killed.
Right.
And before the coming of the horse, everything had to be transported on the Indians' backs or by a dog with a travois behind him. A village traveling on foot moved no more often than necessary, and a supply of fresh water and sufficient wood to support the village had to be at hand, and the area had to be a favored feeding ground of the buffalo. So take in all those considerations when they're trying to figure out a way to have a buffalo jump. So now, running buffalo was developed to kind of a highly specialized art among the Blackfeet up there in Montana. And they usually located their encampment in a valley with a high vertical walls and built a large corral at the base of the cliff. Above on the prairie, large piles of rocks were set up forming a funnel, and the narrow end leading to the edge of the cliff directly over this corral. Now, when the camp needed meat, a select group of warriors, and they were called Buffalo Watchers. That's what they were named. And they kept watch for a herd of the right size to appear opposite the funnel opening. And when all conditions were right, the Buffalo Watchers reported the fact back to camp. Now, the Buffalo Caller, usually the outstanding warrior of the village, then took over. So he's the main guy now. He's directing things. Now, his responsibility was to attract the attention of the animals and get them to follow him in a straight line to the cliff edge. And in preparing for his duty, he painted all the exposed portions of his body with the sacred red earth color, so he would blend in. So here we are. Before dawn, the older men and most of the women would hide behind these rock piles. They would camouflage themselves with robes or other material that blended with the surroundings so the buffalo wouldn't see them. Now, when everything was ready, the Buffalo Caller appeared wearing over his hunched head and shoulders a buffalo robe with the tail and hindquarters dragging on the ground. So it gave him the appearance of a broken-backed buffalo calf. All right? So if you got the picture, we've got this funnel of rocks and people on both sides. You got the Buffalo Caller out in front with this buffalo hide over him, and he's kind of pretending like he's a calf with a broken back. Now, the collar would go up the center of the funnel, and he would kind of zigzag toward the herd, which they remained undisturbed by his seemingly aimless wandering. They didn't pay much attention. Now, when he had approached within a couple of hundred yards, the collar would pause and give the cry of an injured calf. And I'm not going to even attempt it because I don't know what an injured calf sounds like.
Keep going, I'll tell you.
Well, I'm I'm not gonna try that one. But anyway, so gaining the attention of an old cow, he continued to give the distress call. Now, if the cow remained motionless, he coaxed her toward him with a kind of a limping, injured gait, pretending like he couldn't hardly walk very good.
No, wait, whoa. You're telling me that this Indian wore a buffalo robe and he's on foot, right?
Right.
Okay. Yes. Now, don't let me jump too far ahead, but help me a little bit. And then he's going to call the buffalo and get them, the buffalo, maybe 500 to 1,000 head, to follow him towards a cliff, right?
You're getting ahead of me, Zeb.
Yeah, but you're scaring me.
Okay. Well, keep in mind, you got the picture. So the old cow would kind of start going towards the guy with the buffalo robe.
Uh-huh.
And other cows would follow the leader, and pretty soon the whole herd was in motion, coming to the aid of this calf that was in distress. And the buffalo caller would head straight down the center of the funnel, keeping a pretty close watch behind him, as you could imagine. And as soon as the last of the herd had entered the funnel, the old men and women that were hiding behind the rock piles would start jumping up. They'd start screaming and waving blankets, and the farther the buffalo ran, the more narrow the gap between them and the people became. So this is quite a sight to behold. Now, that was the moment of kind of the greatest danger of both the caller and the people. Now, the caller had to time his escape just right.
Oh, yeah.
Because too soon, and the buffalo might swerve to one side or the other and trample some of the people. So it was a pretty important to be timed just right. Now, when everything was right, he cast aside his buffalo skin and ran behind one of the rock piles.
Uh-huh.
And I imagine he had to be a pretty fast runner.
Now, of course, this was all rehearsed, I'm sure, many, many times to make sure that that buffalo caller was fairly near a pile of rocks to which he could hide himself, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm sure he had picked out a spot ahead of time.
They either picked the fastest guy or the dumbest guy in the tribe.
Well, according to them, he was a good warrior. He was the man. They trusted him. So
we have a caller that has a question about the sanity of your buffalo caller. Hold on just a second. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Quickly.
There's a buffalo jump east of Livingston, Montana, about 6 miles.
Okay.
I think I'm going to talk about that one.
Okay. Yeah. He's got that coming up, caller. God bless you. Thank you for your call. Appreciate that. All right, go ahead.
Again, so here's the buffalo. They're being driven. They're frantic. They're blinded by the waving of the blankets and the screaming people who suddenly had emerged from an empty prairie, so they thought. So the buffalo, they're rushing to their destruction over the edge of the cliff, falling hundreds of feet into this corral below. And at the foot of the cliff, warriors went in to kill the buffalo that had survived the jump off the cliff. So they all didn't die when they went over. Now, the whole village gathered to butcher the hundreds of animals, curing meat and tanning hides that would last them for months ahead. Now, the Cheyenne held a buffalo drive pretty similar to that of the Blackfeet, and the Cheyenne buffalo callers were two medicine men who advanced and retreated before the herd, slowly waving eagle wings and singing medicine songs. They were the ones trying to attract the buffalo. But the buffalo drives were the most popular method of securing meat until the introduction, of course, of guns. And with the coming of the gun, a surplus of hides was accumulated for the first time among the Plains Indians anyway. And although they did not realize it at the time, this surplus kind of forecast the end of the buffalo and the end of free life for the people, because you know what's coming there. But, you know, the buffalo jumps, they have these archaeological sites, and they've been able to go in there and determine what the Indians used, how they used them for the buffalo for food, for clothing, for shelter, The Plains Indians in particular depended on the bison for their survival. Every part of the animal could be used in some way. So, the hides obviously for clothes and shelter, bones for tools, sinews for bowstrings and laces. The hooves could be ground for glue, and the brains could be used in the tanning process for the hides. And I think I'd heard that before.
Yeah.
But the extra meat was preserved as pemmican.
Yeah.
So they used every bit of the buffalo. Now, in one of his journals, Meriwether Lewis describes how a buffalo jump was practiced when they were on their 1805 expedition. And here's what he says, quote, "One of the most active and fleet young men is selected and disguised in a robe of buffalo skin. He places himself at a distance between a herd of buffalo and a precipice proper for the purpose. The other Indians now surround the herd in the back and flanks, and at a signal agreed on, all show themselves at the same time moving forward towards the buffalo. The disguised Indian or decoy has taken care to place himself sufficiently near the buffalo to be noticed by them. When they take to flight and running before them, they follow him full speed to the precipice. The Indian decoy, in the meantime, has taken care to secure himself in some cranny in the cliff. The part of the decoy, I'm informed, is extremely dangerous."
Well, now, that absolutely is the understatement of the year.
It is. So I'm going to just mention 3 sites, and I think our caller mentioned one of these. One of them is called the Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll explain that.
Okay.
So the Head Smashed In takes its name from the story of a young pigeon boy who stood under the cliff to get a better view of the buffalo falling over the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the young man was soon crushed under the pile of dead buffalo.
Holy cow.
So that's where they get the term head smashed in buffalo. But, while the Indian people have inhabited this area for around head smashed in for more than 11,000 years, it did not become designated as a National Historic Site until 1968. Now, I've been there, Zeb, and it's just, if you go up through Montana up into Canada past Glacier National Park, past, I think, Cardston, they have an interpretive center, and it was officially opened by the Duke and Duchess of York, Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson in 1987. And it's actually built into the side of the cliff. So I would encourage anybody, if you ever get a chance to go up in that area, to go visit that amazing visitor center that they have. Now, there's another one called the Pishkin Buffalo Jump, and it's likely the largest buffalo jump in the world. It was used by the Indians in the area between 900 and 1500 A.D. The cliffs themselves stretch for more than a mile, and the site below has compacted bison bones nearly 13 feet deep.
Oh, my.
So that, that's been used for hundreds of years. And the Pishkin Buffalo Jump is located in a place called the First Peoples Buffalo Jump State Park in Cascade County, Montana. Now, that also might have been the one that our caller-in was talking about as well.
Absolutely.
Now, one other one that I'm going to mention is called the Madison Buffalo Jump State Park. Is a Montana state park in Gallatin County, Montana. The park is 638 acres and sits at an elevation of 4,500 feet. And the park is named for a canyon cliff used by the Indians as a buffalo jump.
Now, I disagree with all these parks named after the buffalo. I think they should be named after the buffalo callers. And I think outside on the gate of all these parks, there should be a pair of moccasins with holes in them that showed that he was burning the bottom of his soles trying to get the heck out of the way.
Just like we have a National Hall of Fame for cowboys and basketball players and everything, they ought to have one for the buffalo callers.
They ought to give that guy, whoever the guy was that was a buffalo caller, they ought to give him the key to the teepee or something. I mean, holy cow.
Yeah, well, this Madison buffalo jump, say it's been used for 2,000 years by the Indians, and it is a day-use only park, but it's open year-round for hiking and picnicking and stuff like that. So, folks, if you ever get out there to some of these buffalo jumps, and especially the only one I've been to is the one up in Canada, and it was pretty amazing. I highly recommend people to head up and go into there.
Head them up, move them out. And, of course, now you were quite an athlete, I understand, in high school. Maybe you could be the buffalo caller on a reenactment.
You know, if I really jumped hard, sometimes I could hit the bottom of the net in basketball. That was about as high as I could jump.
I'll tell you what, when you got 1,000 head of buffalo on your little tutu, you're going to jump as high as you want to jump.
Yeah. Now, Zeb, you always ask me, what am I going to talk about next week?
Yes.
And I have got some more information that I'm going to talk about a particular hunter, buffalo hunter, and the buffalo. So next week I'm going to kind of continue in this vein of about the buffalo.
It sounded a lot better, thank you, and I really appreciate that. And I want to ask you one quick question. Give me a short answer because I'm out of time. So, like in the movie Dances with Wolves, where they were running alongside and shooting them with arrows, that's really kind of Hollywood, not really what happened?
Well, I think that did happen, but it was a lot harder work than I think the movies portray.
I see.
So they once they did have horses, yeah, they could. But then a lot of times they even had guns.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know how accurate or how long they actually used arrows, from horseback.
Okay, I got to run. I'm late, but God bless you, Dr. History. Thank you for being on the air this morning. Great job. Great job. Dr. History with another great story here this morning. Quickly, I want to tell you about our friends Curtis and Lorena at Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. Oh, they've got all your electronics needs. They've got everything over there. I mean, I had Curtis on the program not too long ago, and he started explaining this and that and the other, and I'm going, holy moly, this guy is the professor of electronics. Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley, and they're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. And don't forget, they've got all the video surveillance cameras in the home theater systems, all your complete sound systems in your television sets. Oh, it's all there at Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley, 678-6997. Right now, we'll send it back over to my itty-bitty buddy Wheels, and we'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, I want to remind you, too, about on Mondays at 10:30, don't forget, how does your garden grow? Well, I'll tell you, we'll help it grow with the talking every Monday at 10:30 to the lovely Miss Vicky at Vicky's Country Gardens. And don't forget, she'll give us all the help on the seed and the growing and the fertilizing and all that type of thing. Don't forget Vicky's Country Garden, 185 South, 600 West of Paul, every Monday at 10:30. Want to also give a great big shout out to our friends at Lee's Furniture, Floors and More. They are doing everything they can right now to serve you, and I urge you, and underline the word urge, to get a hold of them today and let them know that you need maybe new furniture or a new carpet or new mattress, whatever. They absolutely are taking calls at 878-2341, 878-2341, and in this time of so-called crisis, we're basically asking you to give them a call, and they've got prices that are absolutely unheard of. Please call Jeff and the rest of the folks at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley, simply the best. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and I'm really interested in talking to this man because I think he's going to provide me with some insight as to all the shortcomings I had as a dad when my kids were growing up. He is the author of the book, The New Father book series, a nationally published columnist on manhood and fatherhood, and host of Positive Parenting, a weekly talk show. Woo! All of this, and he's still got time to be a pretty good guy. Armin Brott, good morning.
Good morning, Zeb. How are you?
Well, I have read some of your bios and everything, and where did you get all this vast knowledge on being super dad?
Well, I started looking at all the things I'd done wrong, I guess, and decided I should not do them again. But I also I'm pretty obsessive about doing research, and so when I first started writing more than 20 years ago, writing about fatherhood, there really wrote the book that I wish I would have had. There weren't any resources for dads. There weren't any magazines or radio shows or any kind of resources at all for me, because I had a bunch of questions about what it was like to be a dad. Well, what was I going to do? How was I going to be a better dad than my dad? That kind of thing. And it just really came from there. And so I started digging in. I started going to the libraries at the University of California at Berkeley. I have huge psychology libraries, and researching everything I could, and then calling up the people who wrote the studies. And it's kind of gone on that way for more than 20 years now.
Armin,
it's really about talking, looking at the things I wish that I wanted to know, and then also talking to guys about what it is that they need to know and what are their issues, what are their concerns.
Absolutely. Armin, I'm going to throw this at you, and you can tell me if I'm all wet or if you think you agree with me. But I think there's such a thing as generational dads. In other words, what I'm trying to say is my dad came from a very strict German family that came over from the old country to live here. And boy, that strictness and that German upbringing, that was generational, and it was passed on to me. Would you agree that that happened and is happening in certain circumstances?
Oh, I think absolutely. There's definitely generational differences. I think that there are more. My dad and perhaps your dad, we're more in the category of wait till your father comes home to deal with you type of dad. That was the responsibilities that they had, and part of being a father, a good father back then, in previous generations, was you get out, you go to work, you bring home the bacon, you feed everybody, and then you can sit in your chair and you've taken care of your responsibilities. And that was fine. That was what the role was. Over time, it's evolved. It's kind of strange this way. You look at these studies, even of millennials and Gen Z, they say, what's the most important thing about being a father? Being the provider protector is still there. But we're also now supposed to be setting up play dates, and we're supposed to know our kids' shoe sizes and all their friends' names, and we're supposed to read them bedtime stories and coach the soccer team and everything else. And it's a lot of stuff that's rather confusing for young dads, especially, who may not have a role model to guide them through the whole thing.
I really am interested in pursuing this. Let me start at square one and tell me how far off I am. I think the role of dads, now my dad and I, very unfortunately, we didn't get along that well. And I look back and I can see now a lot of the things that maybe we fought about, argued about, or had differing opinions on. It was, again, going back to that generational thing. And it's hard for kids and then conversely parents to try to mold together with the same vein of thought. And it seems like today it's tougher on dads than ever before. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're absolutely right. It was a little bit of what I was saying before, that there aren't the same kind of role models. Plus, we have a tendency, this is something that we do as a society or maybe as human beings, is we look back and we see those dads who were working hard and they were the provider protector and they were coming home after a long day of work and they just wanted to sit and relax. And we're looking and we're saying about those guys, they were emotionally distant, or they were physically distant, or they weren't good fathers. Even though at the time they were really good fathers. They were doing exactly what society expected of them, and in many ways exactly the only thing that society was allowing them to do. But now we're looking at it and saying, well, those guys should have been coaching the soccer team. They should have been reading bedtime stories. Really? And how were they supposed to do that? That wasn't what they were told how to do. I remember talking to my grandfather years ago, who died when he was 104, saying, wouldn't you have wanted to spend more time with your kids? He had 5 kids. And he said, yeah, but who was going to pay for food if I was out there hanging out with the kids at home? Because that's what we were telling mothers. That was their job. They were supposed to be occupying themselves with the kids. And so, yes, it's much harder these days to be a dad because there's so many expectations, and we're told that the examples that we had in the past, our own fathers, were bad fathers. We shouldn't be like them. But we aren't telling them what to do. We aren't giving them any support. We aren't helping them to be the kinds of dads that we want them to be, and really the kinds of dads that they want to be themselves. We aren't telling them. We keep telling them that they're just bad. They're just not doing a good job. They don't help out enough. They don't do this. They don't do that. And it's very frustrating. And then we've got the media, which I have been writing about for years. You just look at examples of fathers on TV whether it goes back to Bill Cosby or Ozzie and Harriet, that the fathers they're not good fathers in almost any sense. Their kids don't respect them. Their wife doesn't respect them. It's we tell dads that they're just sort of silly or stupid or buffoonish, and that doesn't really help a young father, particularly to say, I think I can do this. I've got a lot of support out there. People are going to help me if I need it. No, we're giving them the opposite message.
Armin, I am probably a lot older than you. I'm 72, and I can remember vividly the work ethic that was of my father's generation, and I absolutely applaud and commend my father for the work ethic that he had and how he bestowed that same work ethic on me. That's something that's missing today, and I think it's something that we need to reach back into the past and have more of, teaching our kids how to work.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I come in contact with young people, 20s, 30s, who I think have not learned the value of hard work. They don't understand that you might have to do something for a couple years. They want to be promoted to manager or assistant manager, or they want to sit down and have their ideas be taken just as seriously as the ideas of somebody who's been at a company for 20 years and knows what he's doing. And I think it's nice. I applaud the initiative that you want to be taken seriously, but I think what they don't understand is that a lot of respect has to do with earning it. Just like you said, you learn to respect your father for the hard work ethic, and it's not a kind of thing that you can understand at the time, but after you've been doing something for a few years, you learn that. And I think part of the problem comes from when those kids, those 20s and 30-somethings, when they're young, what their parents did to them was they didn't let them fail. We've all heard about the tiger moms or the snowplow parents or the helicopter parents who, they're all pretty much the same thing, is when standing over your kids, and if they fall down, you pick them up right away. Or if they fail on a test, you tell them it's somebody else's fault. We don't tell them that they need to work harder. And so these kids grow up in an environment where they've never failed. They've never had to learn how to get up and pick themselves up and dust themselves off, as the old song goes, and get back to work again. We just tell them that it's somebody else's fault. You're the smartest person. You're the best person. You're the greatest. And so these kids get into the workplace. They don't have that work ethic because they haven't learned how to overcome problems and obstacles, and they expect that they're going to get rewarded just like they did when they were in second grade on the soccer team, and their team comes in dead last, but they get a trophy. Because that's what we do, kids. Is everybody gets a trophy. Everybody's told that they're great. They're the most fantastic, and it's a problem. It really is. And you hit the nail on the head. There is that there are, I think, generational work ethic issues. Not for everybody. I shouldn't say that, because there are plenty of young people who work really hard, but there are, I think, too many who don't.
I also was raised, and again, you can criticize the past, but I don't think it's fair. I'm not saying you, but I mean people can. I was raised in an attitude that it was the John Wayne raising. Be tough, don't be a wussy. If you get a cut, you just keep on going. You always pull yourself back up and keep on fighting. I think today, and again, you're the expert, I think today we have, in general, a generation of wussies that really, they need little padded toys to go into a room, and they need to caress that little toy because they can't take that next college test. Oh, life is too hard. I think we've got to create more toughness with our kids today, just like it was 30, 40 years ago. Do you agree or disagree?
No, I agree with that. It's kind of like the old Johnny Cash song about a boy named Sue.
Yes.
Which is exactly that kind of thing, is we set up obstacles. And I think what we need to do is what I was saying before, is we need to let our kids fail. That's the most important thing that I think we can do as parents, is if they make a mistake, okay, they made a mistake, and let's talk to them afterwards and say, what can you do next time so that they don't do that anymore, so you don't make that same mistake. And if they lose a job, okay, that's fine. That's how those are important lessons. Let's talk about what you need to do. What we need to do so that doesn't happen again. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Is this kind of wissiness that they haven't learned how to fail. And it's a simple fix, really it is. And the only fix is they just have to learn how to deal with obstacles and learn how to build resilience. Because they're going to get out into the real world where you don't get a do-over every single time you make a mistake.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just get fired, or sometimes you get into a car accident, whatever it is. And if you can't deal with that stuff without somebody else coming in and helping you, you're in big trouble.
Armin, we have, and you're, again, very knowledgeable on this, and I'm so grateful that you're on this program, but we have a major problem in our educational circles from kindergarten all the way up through the university system. We have a major problem with what's being shown on television every single night, creating Dad, like you said a moment ago, as a buffoon to be laughed at. How are we going to change that in society today?
Well, that is a huge question, and I wish I knew the answer. I find myself saying to myself, well, I must be getting really old because I'm incredibly frustrated at what's going on. I mean, I hear what happens on college campuses where it's all about safe spaces and trigger words, and where speakers who might be just a little bit to the right of wherever it is that kids are, and they tend to be in college pretty far to the left. The speakers get shouted down, they get excluded, they get told that they're anybody you disagree with is a racist or a bigot or a homophobe. We're lashing out at anything, and one of the things I have a struggle, honestly, that I have had with my kids for a long time. I've got two in their 20s, actually one just turned 30. And a teenager here, and they don't understand how to argue, how to have a simple disagreement with somebody and still go home at the end of the night and kiss them goodnight or shake hands or hug or whatever it is to show that you still respect the other person. They believe that the way to disagree with somebody is to call them names and to just destroy them, which is it's I think part of the social media generation in a way. Is that these are kids who are growing up looking at Facebook and Instagram about how everything is perfect, and look at that makeup and look at this person and what they're wearing, and everybody puts their best self on social media, and nobody has a chance to show anybody else that they might have some problems. And so all these kids, they don't have problems. They're perfect in every way. That's what they think. And anybody who disagrees with them is, again, a racist, a bigot, a homophobe, whatever it is. And I don't know what to do about that, except I think at some point, like so many other things with a pendulum, I think the pendulum has swung too far, and just natural gravity is going to take it back the other way. And hopefully people are going to fight back and teach these kids what they need to know, which is, you know what, you keep calling people racist and bigots, and somebody's going to pop you in the mouth one of these days.
And right there, Armin, I'm not advocating violence, but maybe in certain circumstances, as far as the bully that's trying to overcome the smaller person, or maybe someone else that needs a good pop in the nose, maybe that's the best thing at that particular time in that particular circumstance, to let the situation stop right there. Wouldn't you agree?
I think so, and I can say this because I know that my middle daughter, who's 27, is not listening because she lives in New York. But she was a really, really tough kid, difficult kid. She was rude, she was disrespectful, she mouthed off, and she's a brilliant kid, and she was able to talk circles around anybody. And I kept secretly wishing to myself, one of these days you're going to mouth off to the wrong person and you're going to get smacked. And then you won't do that again. And it never happened, I think. But I do secretly wish that in some ways, because I'm not going to hit my kids. I didn't the whole time they were growing up. And I hope that more people don't hit their kids than do. But I think in some ways that they need a lesson, and they need, whether it's a slap in the face or something else, they need to be told, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You cannot treat other people that way and expect that you're going to get treated any better. Because, who's to say that your opinions and your views are so perfect, but everybody else's are wrong?
Absolutely.
Everybody else has just as strong an opinion as you do, but they disagree with you, and they decide that you're the racist and the bigot and the homophobe, and they decide they're going to punch you. I don't know. It puts me in a difficult ethical situation as a parent, because I don't think we should not be hitting our kids. Nobody should be hitting kids. But I think in some ways you have to learn a lesson, and that may be the quickest way to teach it.
We've got a caller with a question. I've got 2 minutes left. Good morning, caller. Quickly, you're on the air.
Well, when you said you were going to Berkeley, I was instantly skeptical because I thought, what's coming out of Berkeley now is hardly, what I would call American free debate, let's say. And so I worry about parents who are so distracted that they're still children themselves. The children that are left in the void by parents that are so childish themselves, distracted on their phone. Just how bad is the problem? Is it getting worse or better? I'll hang up.
Respond to the caller, please, Armin, if you would.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. It's getting worse. Kids are distracted by their phones. They don't know how to interact with people. And I think just a point about Berkeley is I completely agree with you. I had problems when I lived in Berkeley for exactly that reason. I don't like what they do. It's ironic that Berkeley was the home of the so-called free speech movement, but I can tell you in my defense, they have amazing libraries. And libraries, fortunately, don't have an ideological bent usually. They had everything in those libraries, which was exactly what I needed to research the material that I needed for the book. So Berkeley is not all bad in every way, but they certainly, at the university level, they are not teaching kids what they need to succeed.
Armin, quickly tell me about the New Father book series. Where can people find it? How did they get a hold of it?
Oh, they can get it on my website. The books there's a whole bunch of them. That's why it's a series. There's The Expectant Father Dealing with Pregnancy and Childbirth. There's a book on the first year, the toddler years, one for military dads. All that's on the website at mrdad.com or at any bookstore that you like to go.
I want to ask you a favor, and you are such an interesting person. Please come back in the future when I call. I've enjoyed our conversation.
I would be glad to so much. It was a lot of fun. Thanks a lot, Seth.
All right, sir. Thank you. Armin Brott, also known as Mr. Dad and author of the New Father book series, and we're going to have him back. A very interesting individual. A lot of questions I wanted to ask, but we just flat ran out of time. Thank you very much, Armin Brott. Weather. Oh, boy. Got to get the weather forecast on here right now, and it's brought to you by Don Scarrow and the crew at Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Hello, Don. Oh, I love talking about his business. Bratwurst. Oh, they've got delicious bratwurst and all the breakfast sausages and all the different kinds of bacon and the tri-tips and the hams and the pork ribs. Oh, I could just go on and on and on. You can see everything they've got over there by going to their website, scarrowsmeats.com, or give them a call at 324-7657. Scarrow's Meats in Jerome. It is good eating. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Sunshine for today, rain showers for tomorrow. Welcome to spring here in the Magic Valley. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Mostly sunny skies for today. We are expecting a high of 53. Tonight, clouds are going to be rolling in with a low of 39. Tomorrow, it's going to be cloudy, windy, and rainy. High of 56. Looks like winds could gust as high as 40 miles an hour by tomorrow night. That's going to be tapering down just a little bit. We are expecting wind gusts as high as 34 miles an hour, and we are expecting a low right around 30. For Thursday, back to mostly sunny skies, high of 50. By Friday, sunny mid-50s. That's what's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
I don't know about you all out there in Radio Land, but I've had enough of the wind. I don't chase hats really well. Anyway, our weather brought to you by Scarrow's Meats. Don and the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. Telephone number 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time at Scarrow's Meats. It is good eating. I want to remind you, and I'm going to say this right now, so that for tomorrow you can call over. You need to call today and pick up your meal tomorrow at the Senior Center on Overland. Just a day in advance, call them and tell them you'd like to reserve 1, 2, 3, 20 meals, whatever the case might be. 878-8646. They're only $5 a piece, and believe me, good eating, and help support the Senior Center on Overland in Burley. Really, really good folks. What have we got on the schedule for tomorrow? tomorrow. Let's take a look. Oh, going to be good. We've got Dave Bigo back in Indianapolis, Indiana. Then we're going to have RCAF USA CEO Bill Bullard talking about the idiocy of the radio frequency ID tags. Dr. Durrell, a man that we had on our program extensively last summer, and then we kind of, I don't know, just forgot to call him and ask him to come back. He's going to be on talking about COVID crisis with the coronavirus. And then at 10:30, we're going to have a real lengthy discussion with Representative Fred Wood, a total explanation of how you can get your ballots for the May 19th primary. I know that many of you, like me, got the card in the mail, and then all you have to do is read it and do what they ask, and we can all participate in voting for the May 19th primary election, which is going to be by absentee ballot only through the mail. So please read it and participate, okay? All of that's coming up tomorrow, and we always end the program by saying the way things were are the way things ought to be. I certainly hope you and your family are safe and well. God bless you all for listening and all your kind comments and thoughts. We always end the program, too, by saying the 4 words that mean the most to us. In God we trust. We will be back here tomorrow morning at 8:06. Buddy Wheels will be over there at the main studio, quarterbacking the whole deal. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Zeb at the Ranch. God bless. See you then.